My name is Victoria Alonso. I'm the executive producer of Doctor Strange. I have a couple of different jobs. I'm also the executive vice president of physical production at Marvel. So we do a little bit of the studio job, a little bit of the producer job, and everything else in between.
And, you know, I was reading recently a little bit about you. Obviously, I was doing my research. And you are one of the first, if not few, women who are in a position on the production side for a big studio. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means to you and what that means for the industry? And not only a woman, but also Latina.
I think it's exciting that the doors are opening to capable people, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. But I think we've seen a lot of capable men, and now we're getting a chance to have some capable women. So the idea of balance, I think, is a healthy one. So that's what I keep on pushing for, the 50-50 rule, I call it. If you can have 50-50, I think it'll be a little more balanced, a little more what the world is about. I mean, women are 51% of the population, so we should have 50% or maybe 51%, I don't know, of the jobs.
Of the representation.
That's right.
In the workplace. What is your favorite part about what you do here at Marvel?
You know, one of the most exciting things about it is that sometimes you just don't know what's coming. You think you have it planned, you think you know what you're doing, and then something just comes as a bit of a tsunami of, nope, this is what we're doing, because now the landscape has changed. So the possibility of change is a constant for us. And that is frightening at times and exciting all at the same time.
Yeah, because I'm sure it allows for you to, you know, come up with new creative ways to solve.
Well, you're on your feet a lot. You know, it's like sometimes you think you have it all figured out and then you don't. And then the next thing you know is you're at it again and again and again. And you had 13 plans already for that one thing. And now we need a 14th plan. And so you go with it. It's a nice way to stay agile, both mind and body.
So you've worked on quite a few properties for Marvel already. What?
14.
Quite a few. What does Doctor Strange bring to the Marvel Cinematic Universe that's a little different than the rest of them?
Doctor Strange is special. There's something about it that is different. And I think part of it is that it has a lot to do with the spiritual side of what this character has to go to and through. So he has to be at the bottom of the bottom to realize that the bottom is the beginning, and it could take him to heights that he's never been to. And I think that at some point in our lives, we've all been to a place where we feel is a bottom or a bad place, and we rise from it. And I think that sometimes you rise with the help of someone, or you rise because within you find the spiritual guidance and the strength to get there. And I think that in a way we say this in the movie, whether you see it or you don't yourself, then it's really about you if you want to see that layer, but that layer is there.
And from sort of a more technical perspective, what was exciting for you about working on Doctor Strange? I know one of your big sort of specialties is VFX.
Yeah. Well, there was a chance to take all these multiverses and different dimensions and turn them inside out. So we do a lot of things that are incredibly photoreal, and then we had to create them first and then completely tear them apart. So that was a fun part, to tear something apart in a way that you can still tell your story, that is visually stunning, that is a little bit dizzying, if you would, and yet people could follow the story in whichever dimension you're in, and it gives you a ride. So it was the greatest combination of all those things.
Can you talk about your approach to that world and sort of like maybe the pre-production process a little bit, and working with, you know, the production designer and the VFX supervisor?
Well, we're involved, you know, clearly from the very beginning, from the writer point. So that's sometimes we have writers, and that's when we have previous artists and visual development all happening. Sometimes it's before we have a director on board. So the gestation of it takes a long time. I mean, we've been working on this movie for 2.5 years, so that's a long time. But so we're sometimes script comes first and then the previs of it all. Sometimes a scene gets pitched as what the scene will be and it gets prevised and then it gets written into the script because a lot of it gets determined by the visuals. So it's a combination of back and forth between writing and visuals that has to be hand in hand throughout. It's not just in pre-production. That also happens in production and very much happens in post-production.
I'm sure, absolutely. And then sort of the process of interpreting this abstract, trippy, world that was created by Steve Ditko. It's, quite a departure from a lot of what we've seen before. And even in the comic universe, it's quite different.
Doing something different, though, that was the one thing that we wanted to attack. Because why do the same over and over? So it was a chance to sort of like venture into places that we had never been, and that's what the multiverse gives us, right? Whether it's in the Magic Mystery Tour, in the Dark Dimension with Dormammu, or when we go into the Mirror Dimension or the Astral Plane, any of those different places, it was a chance to do something completely different than we had seen before, and yet believe that this was a journey of a superhero.
And so for this movie in particular, and we've done it in the past on other films, we've decided to open up the aspect ratio and go into that special format with IMAX. Can you talk a little bit about coming to that decision and how it works with the story and for Doctor Strange?
Yeah, this is not the first project that we've done in this criteria. So we had learned before with Guardians of the Galaxy and also with Civil War. And the idea was, what can we do for this story that will work for IMAX? Because we want to tell that story immersively, but we also didn't want to have this cryptic in and out, in and out, in and out of the different ratios. So we decided that the person that Doctor Strange was up to when he gets to Kathmandu and Nepal is one person, and the person that he becomes once he's there is a different person. It's different times of his journey. So what we decided to do was up to the arrival to Kathmandu is a 240, and once we get to Kathmandu, we opened it up as if you could see that he was growing and he was learning to be the best of who he could be. So it was story-based and technically visually pleasing so that it wouldn't take you out. So that's sort of how we decided to arrive there. So we did over 65 minutes of full-on IMAX.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a really cool metaphor to think about how, he opens his mind, so you open the frame.
Yeah, that was the whole idea, was to have that, right? So once that he arrives to the sanctuary and he starts to learn to open his mind to the possibilities, then the frame opens up and it just takes you through the journey until the very end.
And what have you added something extra into that frame? Steph was telling us that they had placed certain little extras into the frame for the IMAX experience.
For the IMAX experience, if you've seen the movie in 240 and 2D, then when you go to IMAX, you're going to see things top and bottom. I can't tell you what it is, and then I will be giving it up. But there's little things here or there that we added that we thought it would be a nice treat for people to go see. What did he tell you? He's not allowed to tell you.
Well, Bruce also encouraged you guys to sort of feel free to be, obviously it's up to you how free you would like to be with some of the information, but it's out in the world now, people have seen it. So.
I think people should experience it for themselves and see the experience of IMAX, regardless of if you have more or less. The experience itself is what opens you up to a different immersive moment. So I encourage everyone to go see it.
What do you love about IMAX?
I like it big. I think that if you're going to see it big, it doesn't get any bigger than that. And I like the idea of it's almost like you're enveloped by the image. It allows you to sort of it's like the walls disappear and I'm in it. I love that when I see a nature movie when I'm there and I can see that. I love it when I see one of our films where it justifies the bigness of it all. I don't know if that's a word, but it justifies the size of it, and I think it takes you in for a bigger ride. But also it could be, it's funny because it's big, but it could be quite intimate. And that's the magic of the format. That sometimes it doesn't matter that it's so big, you're in it and you're in it to a point of conversion and you're like, wow, that is a huge screen, and yet it feels like super intimate. So that's what I love about it.
You know, when I talk to our post team, we sort of talk about making sure to you know, deliver this immersive experience, and also to work with the filmmakers to ensure that what is being put on screen is exactly what the filmmakers had envisioned. What is that relationship between Marvel and IMAX, you know, mean to you?
We've always had a really good relationship with IMAX. They're incredibly respectful of what we do and how we do it. And I think a lot of our ways of working is that we want to make sure that it's not doubly sharpened, that it doesn't feel too crisp, that it has the feel that the regular film does, and also that the color gets transferred in the right way. So we are very present, and we're in your house when we're trying to finish this movie, and IMAX has been really kind in allowing us to do that. So we appreciate that, because in a way that's the best way to respect the project. If you can put it in any format and respect how it was conceived, then you have the best of all worlds. You have every format possible, but also it's protective of how the movie was created. And those are the things, like in most relationships that we have, that's the one thing that we care to have it as the most important one, so that we can protect the image as we envisioned it.
Were there any particular innovations or new techniques that were sort of developed for Doctor Strange?
Well, we tried to squeeze 36 hours out of the day, and we failed. We couldn't do it. It didn't help us. Not even with trying to get Doctor Strange to help us to manipulate time. It didn't work. We use everything technically. I'm sure Steph will talk to you about everything that we've done. Everything that is available to us, we use it. Everything that is perhaps available, we'll try it. And everything that is not available, we'll ask about it. We're those kind of people.
Were there any particularly challenging scenes for you as one of the producers?
This movie was technically challenging throughout. Even some of in looking at the movie or the scene, you go, well, that doesn't seem that complicated technically, but the astral fight turned out to be incredibly complicated in the approach, and had to do it so that it wouldn't look like a ghost fight or laughable. I mean, those were the two things that we consistently wanted to make sure that you still felt the strength of this fight, and they were both fighting for their lives. And yet to feel like it was an astral projection, and it was ethereal enough but solid enough, and it had to have its own light, but it couldn't be the light of the room, and the room had to be changed. And every time, of course, in every take, there was a different color pattern. It was a bit of a struggle and a nightmare, but I think the final product is pretty cool. Every scene we've done in this movie, whether it's the dark dimension, the astral projection, the magic mystery tour, the mirror dimension, they're incredibly complicated technically, and also story points to get through in a very small amount of time, to say so much about that moment in time that has to carry through the entire film. So we were, I would say we were pretty challenged. It was a constant thing, regardless of what we were tackling.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely unlike anything we've ever seen. So every topic that we cover in the film is kind of new.
Well, we wanted to do something different, right? I mean, like that you have a chance to do something new, so let's take it. And it's incredibly vulnerable to get out there and get it done, but it's a chance that we had, so we took it.
Are there any shots or scenes in particular that you're really proud of?
Well, I'm proud that the movie got finished. I'm incredibly fond of the conversation between the Ancient One and Doctor Strange in the balcony at the hospital. That's an important conversation for me. And it touches on your life is about the possibilities. And I think that everything we've tried to do at Marvel is about the possibilities. What if you get this superhero and you tell their story? So for me, it was quite metaphoric of our journey. It's about opening the door and seeing the possibilities.
Yeah, that's a remarkably beautiful scene. I thought so as well. And sort of switching gears just for a moment, do you have any advice or words of wisdom that you would like to share with people who are aspiring to work in our business, in the industry, and maybe even who want to work for Marvel?
Well, I'd say know who you are when you go in, stay who you are as you get through, and continue to knock on doors until one opens. I think that people get discouraged when one door or two or three or 20 don't open. And sometimes doors don't open for a long time. It's just a perseverance game. And I call it as a perseverance plus erosion. And either you win by erosion or by persevering on the erosion that you're about to win. It's keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. It will happen eventually, but find out why you're in it. What is it that you want to get out of it? Because it gets confusing for some people on why they want to do certain jobs. And it's important to know what you really want to do. And if you don't, that's okay. But if you don't know what you want to do, be open-minded about the possibilities. Just try to figure out which way goes for you at that moment in time. And if that fills the gap at that moment, then that potentially is the right way to go. So I'd say keep on trying, keep on trying, keep on trying.
And I think this is the last question, but IMAX is about to celebrate 50 years of being in the industry.
They're babies! 50 years!
And
I just turned 50.
Oh, congratulations.
There you go, baby!
Practically twins.
Practically twins. I know how they feel.
And, you know, IMAX has changed a lot throughout the years. You know, we started off very much in sort of this documentary, institutional film realm, and in the last couple of decades have moved into Hollywood films and narrative films. How do you think IMAX, or the IMAX experience, has sort of changed movie-going experience over the 50 years? Well,
I think I can only speak about maybe the last 10, 15. I think what it's done is allowing us to see something that we care to see either once in a very specific environment or something that we'd like to see multiple times in a different way. So it's a chance to experience. And I think that if I had to define IMAX, is a true experience. It's either an experience of something that you're repeating because you want to see it in a different way, or it's something that you're going to see it once, and that's going to make a mark. Now, to have a brand that can do that, I think that's pretty terrific.